The movies have taught us to think of fainting as something dramatic but harmless. A character receives shocking news, puts a hand to their forehead, and swoons gracefully onto a sofa. Someone fans them, gives them a glass of water, and they wake up fine a minute later. But in the real world, and especially for those of us over the age of 60, fainting is not theatrical. It is dangerous. In fact, it can be deadly. Medical professionals call it syncope. It is a sudden, temporary loss of consciousness caused by a lack of blood flow to the brain. For a senior citizen, a fainting spell is not just a little dizzy spell. It is the leading cause of unexplained falls, hip fractures, and traumatic brain injuries. Imagine standing in your kitchen on a tile floor or standing at the top of a staircase. If your brain decides to shut down, in that moment, gravity takes over. You cannot catch yourself. You cannot protect your head. The impact can change your life or end it in a split second. But here is the good news that most people do not realize. Fainting rarely happens without a warning. Before the lights go out, your body enters a phase called the prodrome. This is a window of time, sometimes just 5 seconds, sometimes a few minutes, where your body screams at you that the brain is running out of oxygen. It begs you to get down. The tragedy is that most seniors ignore these warnings. We think, I'm just a little lightheaded. I'll just hold on to the counter until it passes. Or we think, I just need to walk it off. Trying to walk off a faint is the most dangerous thing you can do. In this video, we are going to dissect the 7 specific warning signs that appear in those critical moments before you lose consciousness. These are not random symptoms. They are the biological alarms of a brain in crisis. Please listen closely to sign number 6. It is a sensation involving your hearing that is often described as peaceful or quiet, but it is actually the sound of your blood pressure bottoming out. Recognizing it instantly could give you the precious seconds you need to sit down and save your bones. Let's begin. Sign number 1, tunnel vision or graying out. We rely on our eyes for balance and orientation, but the eyes, specifically the retinas, are incredibly hungry organs. They require a constant, high-pressure supply of oxygen-rich blood to function. When your blood pressure drops suddenly, whether from standing up too fast, dehydration, or a heart rhythm issue, the pressure in the arteries feeding your eyes drops too. The peripheral areas of your vision, the sides, are the first to lose power. It starts as a blurring of the edges. Then, it feels like you are looking through a tube or a tunnel. The colors might fade. The world doesn't turn black immediately. It turns gray, like an old television set losing signal. Let's look at the story of Martha. Martha was 72 years old and loved her garden. One hot July morning, she was kneeling down to weed her petunias. She had been out there for an hour and hadn't drunk much water. When she stood up to go inside, she stopped. She felt strange. She looked at her rose bushes, but she couldn't see the red flowers clearly. It looked like a gray fog was closing in from the sides of her eyes. Martha thought, my glasses must be dirty, or maybe it's just the sun glare. She tried to take a step forward to clean her glasses. That step was her mistake. Her brain had already cut power to her vision to save energy. 2 seconds later, she collapsed among the roses. She woke up with a broken wrist. If Martha had known that tunnel vision means sit down now, she could have lowered herself to the grass safely. If your vision ever narrows, or if the world loses its color and turns gray, do not rub your eyes. Do not try to walk to a chair. Drop to your knees wherever you are. You are about to fall. Sign number 2, the sudden, clammy sweat, diaphoresis. This is one of the most distinct and uncomfortable sensations a human can feel. It is not the same as sweating from exercise or a hot day. When you exercise, you get hot, and you sweat to cool down. It feels natural. But a pre-syncope, pre-fainting, sweat feels cold. It happens instantly. One moment you are dry. The next moment, your forehead, your upper lip, and the back of your neck are drenched in a cold, sticky moisture. Why does this happen? It is a sign of your autonomic nervous system panicking. When your brain realizes blood pressure is falling, it triggers a massive fight or flight response to try to pump the heart faster. But at the same time, the rest and digest, vagus nerve, system is misfiring, causing the blood vessels to dilate. This conflict causes the sweat glands to open wide, but because your skin has lost blood flow, which is why you look pale, the sweat feels cold. Consider Robert, 75 years old. Robert was standing in church, singing a hymn. It was a bit warm in the building, and he had been standing for 10 minutes. Suddenly, he felt a wave of moisture hit his face. He reached up and wiped his forehead, and his hand came away wet. He felt embarrassed. He thought, I hope no one sees me sweating like this. He tried to maintain his composure and keep singing. He loosened his tie, thinking he was just overheated. Moments later, the hymnal dropped from his hands, and he slumped forward into the pew in front of him. This cold sweat is the body's emergency flare. It usually happens about 30 to 60 seconds before you pass out. If you break out in a sweat for no reason, and it feels cold and clammy, do not worry about social etiquette. Sit down. Sign number 3. Sudden, wave-like nausea. The connection between the brain and the gut is powerful. The vagus nerve runs from the brainstem all the way down to the abdomen. When this nerve is overstimulated, a condition called vasovagal syncope, it causes two things. It slows the heart rate, and it churns the stomach. Many seniors faint after eating a large meal. This is called postprandial hypotension. Blood rushes to the stomach to aid digestion, leaving the brain with less supply. If you combine this with a sudden drop in blood pressure, the stomach rebels. This nausea isn't like food poisoning, which builds up. This nausea hits you like a punch. You might feel like you are going to vomit immediately. Let's talk about Eleanor, 68. Eleanor was enjoying breakfast with her friends. She finished her eggs and toast and stood up to pay the bill. As she waited in line, she felt her stomach turn over violently. She thought, oh no, those eggs must have been bad. She felt an urgent need to run to the restroom. She turned to rush to the ladies' room, but she never made it. The act of running diverted even more blood away from her brain to her leg muscles. She fainted in the hallway. The nausea was not because of the eggs. It was because the blood had drained from her brain and the vagus nerve was firing wildly. If you feel sudden, intense nausea combined with dizziness or weakness, do not run to the bathroom. The bathroom is the most dangerous place to faint because of the hard surfaces. Sit down immediately. If you must vomit, do it on the floor if necessary, but do not risk walking. Before we continue to sign number 4, which involves a behavior we usually associate with boredom, but is actually air hunger, I want to pause for a moment. We talk about these symptoms not to scare you, but to empower you. Fainting is a mechanical failure, like a car running out of gas. If you know how to read the fuel gauge, you can pull over safely. Falls are the #1 threat to senior independence. A broken hip can end your ability to live in your own home. By learning these signs, you are protecting your freedom. If you are finding this video helpful, and if you want to arm yourself with the knowledge to age safely and gracefully, please take a brief second to subscribe to this channel and turn on the notification bell. It is a small click for you, but it helps us reach more seniors who need this vital information. And if you are ready to put safety first, please comment "safety first" down below. Thank you. Now, let's look at why you might start yawning uncontrollably. Sign number 4. Excessive yawning or air hunger. We yawn when we are tired. We yawn when we are bored. We yawn when we see someone else yawn. But there is another reason we yawn. The brain is trying to cool itself down and get more oxygen. When blood flow to the brain diminishes, the brain detects a rise in carbon dioxide and a drop in oxygen. In a desperate attempt to fix this, it forces you to take a deep breath. A yawn is essentially a reflex to expand the lungs and intake maximum air. But in the context of fainting, this yawn feels unsatisfying. You might feel like you cannot get a deep enough breath. This is called air hunger. Consider the story of James, 78. James was sitting in his doctor's waiting room. He had been fasting for a blood test, so he hadn't eaten or drunk water since the night before. He stood up to walk to the exam room. Suddenly, he started yawning. He yawned 3 times in a row, deep, jaw-cracking yawns. He felt rude. He tried to stifle them. He thought, I must be more tired than I thought. He also felt like the air in the room was thin. He tugged at his collar. The nurse saw him yawning and swaying. She immediately brought a wheelchair. She knew what James didn't. Those yawns were his brain gasping for air. If you find yourself yawning repeatedly in a situation where you aren't sleepy, especially if you are standing up or in a hot room, this is a warning. It means your circulation is failing. Sign number 5. Palpitations or a fluttering heart. Sometimes, the faint is caused by the heart itself. As we age, we are more prone to arrhythmias like atrial fibrillation. If your heart beats too fast, it doesn't have time to fill with blood between beats. If it pumps empty chambers, no blood gets to the brain. Conversely, if it beats too slow, bradycardia, it doesn't push enough blood up against gravity. Before a faint, you might feel your heart doing gymnastics in your chest. It might feel like a butterfly fluttering, a fish flopping, or a sudden, hard thud. Let's look at Frank, 71. Frank was tying his shoes. When he stood up, he felt his heart skip a beat, then race uncontrollably for a few seconds. He put his hand on his chest. It felt like a drum. He thought, I just moved too fast. He stood still, waiting for it to pass. But the racing heart was actually a drop in blood pressure, and his heart was trying to compensate by beating faster. It couldn't keep up. The room spun, and he fell. If you feel palpitations combined with lightheadedness, this is a cardiac emergency. Do not wait for it to pass while standing. Sit down. Check your pulse. If it is irregular, this is information your doctor needs to know. Sign number 6. Auditory changes, the whoosh or the silence. This is the sign I promised to highlight, because it is so strange and often misinterpreted. Your inner ear, which controls both hearing and balance, is extremely sensitive to blood flow. When pressure drops, the tiny hair cells in the ear stop working correctly. People who are about to faint often describe two distinct sounds. Some hear a loud roaring or whooshing sound, like a seashell held to the ear, or the sound of rushing water. This is the sound of your own blood rushing through the vessels near your ear as the pressure fluctuates. Others experience the opposite, sudden silence. It feels like someone turned the volume knob of the world down. The voices of people around you sound distant, muffled, or like they are speaking to you from underwater. The background noise of the street or the TV fades away. Let's look at Linda, 65. Linda was in the shower. The hot water dilated her blood vessels, lowering her blood pressure. Suddenly, the sound of the water hitting the tiles became very distant. It sounded like a whisper. She felt a strange sense of peace, as if she were detaching from reality. She thought, that's odd, did water get in my ears? She shook her head to clear it. That movement was the final straw. She slipped in the tub. If the world goes quiet, or if you hear a mechanical rushing sound, your senses are shutting down. This is the final warning before unconsciousness. You usually have about 5 to 10 seconds left. Use them to get to the ground safely. Sign number 7. Confusion and inability to speak. This is terrifying for the people around you. When the brain is starved of blood, cerebral hypoperfusion, the higher functions go offline first. These include speech and logic. You might know what you want to say, but you cannot form the words. Or someone might ask you, "Are you okay?" And you just stare at them blankly because you cannot process the question. This often looks like a stroke. And indeed, the mechanism is similar, lack of blood to the brain. But with fainting, it is transient. Take the case of Henry, 80 years old. He was talking to his daughter in the kitchen. Suddenly, he stopped mid-sentence. His daughter asked, "Dad, what did you say?" Henry looked at her. He knew who she was. He wanted to say, "I feel dizzy," but his mouth just opened and closed. He looked confused, like he didn't know where he was. His daughter thought he was having a stroke. She reached out to grab him just as his eyes rolled back and he slumped over. This blank stare or sudden silence is the brain going into safe mode. What to do? The anti-gravity maneuver. Now that you know the 7 signs, tunnel vision, cold sweat, nausea, yawning, palpitations, auditory changes, and confusion, you need to know exactly what to do. Do not try to be a hero. Do not worry about your dignity. Sit or lie down immediately. Even if you are in the grocery store line, even if you are in church, even if you are on a sidewalk. The lower you are, the less distance you fall. Elevate your legs. If you can lie down, put your legs up on a chair or a pillow. This uses gravity to drain blood from your legs back to your heart and brain. It is the quickest way to regain consciousness and stop the feeling. Tense your muscles. If you cannot lie down immediately, for example, you are stuck in a crowd, cross your legs and squeeze your thighs and buttock muscles as hard as you can. Make a fist with your hands. This physical maneuver forces blood out of the limbs and up to the head. It can buy you time. Drink water. Once the feeling passes, drink cool water to boost your blood volume. Conclusion. Fainting is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of physiology. As we age, our baroreceptors, The sensors that regulate blood pressure get slower. Our hearts get a little stiffer. Our thirst drive decreases. All of these factors create a perfect storm for syncope. But your body is on your side. It gives you these 7 signals. The tunnel vision, the cold sweat, the underwater sounds. These are your body's way of saying, I need help. I need gravity to help me. Listen to the signals. Respect the signals. If you have fainted, even once, you must tell your doctor. It could be a simple fix like changing a medication or drinking more water, or it could be a heart issue that needs a pacemaker. But you cannot fix what you do not report. Thank you for spending your time with us today. Your safety is paramount. If you found this video valuable, please share it with your friends. Teach them the signs. You might just save a hip or a life. Stay safe, stay hydrated,